Lions season's over. Lost both coordinators before the season. Classic one. Is that classic one or classic two? We said that was going to be an issue. Lost the game yesterday where they turned the ball over 6 times. Did the Super Bowl window close, bro?
I don't think so because I believe in Dan Campbell. I think he's a very good coach, and I think he's a culture builder. We all know what the Lions have been before he got there. Even with Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders, there's only been a few years, but he has built them from a laughing stock, essentially, into one of the best teams in the league. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, they got a lot of work to do, mainly on the defensive end, but the offensively, you still have Jahmyr Gibbs and, Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I think you've got to build up that defense. And secondly, Nick, I do, as much as I like him, and I said on Friday or a couple days ago, I think he should have made the Pro Bowl. There is legitimate question is Jared Goff, we know he's good, but can he win you a Super Bowl? Now, I think he can if your defense is really good. And because of injuries, their defense hasn't been good enough. But if you give him great defense, he's got very, very good pieces offensively, I think he can be good enough. But there's a legitimate question is he good enough to win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, of course. I don't know. I don't know the Lions Super Bowl window was ever actually open. So the Lions,
because of Goff?
Because
they didn't get close for
They didn't deliver in the playoffs.
As good as Dan Campbell's been, they have one season where they won a playoff game since he's been there. And they won 2, and then they blew a lead in the NFC Championship game. Now, I happen to think that had they won that game, that team wasn't going to beat the Chiefs that made the Super Bowl, but that team had beaten the Chiefs, in the first game of the year. So
that was a fake one, though.
The Lions were great at annihilating overmatched teams. And last year they had an awesome regular season that then turned into the very rare number 1 overall seed that loses its first playoff game. And typically when that has happened, it has been Lamar's, as a second-year quarterback, it happened. Ryan Tannehill, when he was there, it's like, wow, the Titans are the 1 seed. Right? How'd they get the number 1 seed? That doesn't happen that often.
But they were taped together. I feel like you hold that loss against them in a way that other people just chalk it up to injuries.
And I don't mean to be rude, but I think that's because I remember how that game played out. They didn't lose that game just because the defense was banged up. They lost that game because the quarterback turned the ball over, I think it was either 3 or 4 times. And so, and then Jamison Williams threw a pick on one of their biggest plays of the year. That was a baffling game. And so I have not ever believed in the Lions quite as much as I think Vegas has and other media has. And I think the loss of Ben Johnson is real. I think the loss of Aaron Glenn, it might be true that Aaron Glenn is not a successful head coach. 1 year is too early to judge, but it hasn't been a great year. But that doesn't mean he wasn't a super valuable defensive coordinator. And you know what I have said, Brou, in the past about culture-building coaches. I think building culture and establishing a culture is wildly important to get a team from the dregs to competitive or contending. But once you're contending or competitive, the culture can operate on its own for some teams. And what you need is schematic edges, and those seem to go out the window when he lost his coordinators.
Sure.
And so it doesn't, and I'm not saying this
I do think he should get a new OC. I don't think he should call the plays. And they improved offensively when he started calling them, but that's just very tough to do. Only a few can do that.
And to your other point, and we joke about the tiny hand stuff, and I think that Goff is what did I call him? Was he the guy that I called a civilian?
Yeah, the civilian.
The civilian. And that if everything is just right, he can be exceptional. And he can operate your offense, and he's accurate, and he's on time. But if things get a little off, I don't think he can fix things for you. And I think that's just a hard way to operate. It doesn't mean you can't win, but it's just a hard way to operate.
8 turnovers on the season, 6 yesterday, so a total of 14 turnovers. Not good. Cowboys lit up the scoreboard yet again, and the defense was just good enough. Dak throws 2 TDs, including this bomb to Cavante Turpin. Cowboys win this one 30-23. A largely irrelevant game. Brou, what grade are you giving Dallas?
Well, you said it, Wildes. Largely irrelevant grade. So a lot of people want me to give the Cowboys points for just showing up. For not mailing it in, right? Meaningless game. You even playing Dak. Oh, wow. Let's give Dak some credit for playing, right? And they did look pretty good.
People were saying that.
Who were saying that?
People were saying that around.
Right.
Well, you know, you're out of it. You got a quarterback who's had some injury issues, but he wanted to go out there and strap it on, the chin strap. So, all right, look, they jumped out to a 21-3 lead, so that was impressive. All right, Dak did show up, threw for 307, 2 touchdowns. Malik Davis, it wasn't my man Javonte. It was Malik Davis, over 100 yards rushing, and there was a George Pickens sighting. 4 catches, almost 80 yards. He looked good, right? All right. But they were playing the Washington Commanders not just without Jaden Daniels, their starting quarterback, not just without Marcus Mariota, their backup quarterback, but someone named Josh Johnson starting that quarterback. Nick just completely dismissed.
He's not okay.
Yeah, Nick just dismissed him a few segments ago. He's 39.
Yeah.
Wasn't really all that at
25 teams.
All right.
Yeah, veteran experience.
Okay.
I give him credit, though, for getting out there. But still, I can't give the Cowboys too much credit for beating a team in that bad a shape. But I won't dismiss them. I will give them a
roller coaster.
B for blah. B for blah. Okay. What you think I should have gave him an A?
No, B for blah.
It's just a great performance as always. I felt similarly as Brou did about the game, which is I was not that interested in it, but we owe it to our audience to grade every game this season, so we have to do this.
The promise we made.
So can I want to pivot this a bit.
Sure.
The Cowboys have one major decision this offseason, and it's will they or will they not pay George Pickens.
Oh.
And I am curious where right now you guys stand. You seem like Wildes like it's.
I thought you were talking to Eberflus.
Oh, do they change coaching staffs? I don't know. I guess
personnel.
I shouldn't have said it's the only major decision they have, but they.
I think that's a good.
As far as like free agent, like pending, we know Aubrey's a pending free agent. We know they want him back. That one's bring back Brandon Aubrey is very simple. You make him the highest paid kicker ever and sign him for as long as he'll agree to sign to. That's fine.
Yeah.
Pickens will be a polarizing decision, and I thought it was noteworthy that, like you said, he did have a bit of a bounce back game after a couple games ago was really rough. Last game, a little hit and miss. Obviously, it was a prolific connection. Mm-hmm. I do think there is legitimate worry that, man, if he couldn't keep it all the way together in the final weeks of a contract year, how will he be if he gets paid like he's a superstar receiver? And so I don't know where you guys stand on it.
Well, here's where I stand. The first time you presented this, I think a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned, do they want to not use the franchise tag on Pickens and use it on Aubrey?
Yeah.
I'm not using the franchise tag on Aubrey. I'm paying him. Like you said, I mean, this dude is phenomenal.
Yes.
So I am giving him a
whatever
contract.
it takes.
A long-term contract. You're staying here. That allows me to use the franchise tag on Pickens because I don't want to give him a long-term deal yet.
But don't you think that if you franchise tag Pickens and don't extend him, it's going to be a mess?
If it is, then I know I'm not signing this guy long-term. And if it gets too bad, I'll let him go. I'll release him. So I'm taking that risk because I'd rather do that than give him 4 years, $100 million or whatever it would be, and then I regret that. So.
Do you think it would be strange if I was Jerry Jones? I said, you know, George, you're George Pickens in this role play. You played great. We think that you're a number one guy somewhere.
He was the one that made the Pro Bowl, not CD.
But not for us probably, and you did a fantastic job outside of the time you quit on the team and some routes. But we don't think, being a 2 is really your destiny. Also, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, that didn't really work. T and Jamar works, but it feels like they should have spent some more money on the defense.
A.J. Brown, Devontae has worked.
Works outside of the constant stress about where the ball's going to be.
Yeah.
That's just him.
I don't know. I just don't know what's the shining symbol of 2 amazing number 1 guys getting paid at top of the market.
Paying 2 receivers typically has not worked out for teams that have done it. The Eagles have made it work, but they also got Devontae on an insane deal. And, their issues have been separate. So I get it. You guys know where I stand. I think that I wouldn't pay George Pickens. I know what the talent is. I wouldn't. If I'm trying to win a championship, I don't think talent is enough to overcome the other stuff with him. Looked like this year he was going to prove he was a new man and just couldn't hold water quite long enough.
It's shocking, too, that he did that.
Yeah. Bears 49ers. Caleb off a heroic victory against the Packers. Brock off of a 5-touchdown performance against the Colts. Brou, who do you expect to have the more impressive game here?
Look, both players are cooking. No question about it. Now, differently, because Brock cooks, or it has been throughout the entire game, and Caleb, we know, does it at the end. He was bad, terrible, for the first, 3.5 quarters last week against Green Bay, and then was heroic at the end. And he's had several games like that. So I do think he could end up being heroic. If they win, I think it'll be because he did something special at the end of the game. But throughout the 4 quarters, I expect San Francisco to build a decent lead because Purdy has played well throughout the game and Caleb hasn't. And this game is in San Francisco. Caleb is a different quarterback at home and on the road. Look at these numbers. The road, that's a bad passer rating. Completion percent, he's not great with that anywhere. But the interceptions, which he doesn't throw a lot of, for him to throw 5 on the road is a high number.
It's also surprising because normally when you see those splits, it's because the guy's home games are in a dome. It's because it's not like Soldier Field or is, a quarterback
even the sacks,
haven.
Look at that, which he's done a great job.
And I wonder how much of that is the noise on, one of the issues he had certainly early in the year has been kind of the operation, pre-snapping and everything done. I wonder how much of that is the noise on the road, further distracts it. I really trust Kyle Shanahan against overmatched defenses. And I think the Bears defense is a little overmatched in this spot. And so, and I also think that the Bears' offensive game plan is going to be to run the ball as much as possible and try to take advantage of some of the Niners' injuries. But I think that there will be Niners players running open far more than there will be Bears players running open. And so I think that Purdy could have a really good stat line. Now, the Bears have made their money by turning you over.
Yep.
And Purdy, the last few years, has been a guy who will throw some balls in
early this season, especially when he wanted to show something.
Will put the ball in jeopardy. And so this could, I think Purdy is more likely to have an A+ game than Caleb, and I think Purdy's more likely to have an F game.
An F game?
No, I'm saying if one of the 2 quarterbacks has an awful game, Purdy would be my pick. If one of the 2 quarterbacks has an awesome game, Purdy would be my pick for that as well. I know those sound in conflict, but I don't think they actually are. I just think he'll be the higher variance quarterback in this game.
Roma Dunze out again this game.
Yeah.
Phillip versus the Prince. Jags at Colts. Sunday at 1 on Fox. Trevor just lit up the vaunted Broncos defense, but as Brou mentioned, it's due for a loss. Now he's in Indy against a defense that gave up 5 touchdowns to Brock. What would another monster game mean for the Prince?
If he has another monster game and they get to 12-4 with a Titans game in week 18 on deck, they're going to be a 13-win team. He is going to have had Pro Bowl caliber numbers, even though he didn't make it, because his numbers and Justin Herbert's are basically identical. And I think that if he and Justin Herbert's numbers are identical right now, and Herbert has the Texans and Broncos left, and he has Colts, Titans, we're saying if he has a monster game, then he'll really outstrip them there. I think that, and this has not actually been a team in years past that has done anything. The late charging team that, nobody wants to play, like the Browns a couple years ago were that team. But I think that's who the Jags will be. I think a lot of shows on Monday will say, you know who I could see coming out of the AFC? The Jacksonville Jaguars. And by the way, I think that'll be legitimate. I think that and I understand I might be the wrong messenger on this because I've always, even when there's not been a lot of evidence to back it up, I've believed in the Prince's talent. But he does all of a sudden bring a lot of experience to play coming these playoffs. So, not just that he's been to the playoffs for, but that he's got 80-some starts under his belt. He's dealt with real adversity and real success. And if he is playing his best ball when you know what the raw talent is, plus Etienne playing the best of his career, and Liam Cohen, I think, really feeling himself, I think that's a dangerous team.
I think they're dangerous. Even if they lose this game, which I predicted, I think they're dangerous in these playoffs. That said, a great game by the Prince. Look, I don't think most people, including myself, will ever fully be like, okay, he's arrived until he does it. I'm not saying they have to get to the Super Bowl, but till he,
has
plays
a full
well
year
in the playoffs. If he ends the season strong and plays well in a game or two in the playoffs and they lose, then I'll believe, okay, next year he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. But if he doesn't, if he struggles, like these last 4 games, we know he's been great. 14 touchdowns, no interceptions, no turnovers, I believe.
Yep.
But the 3 games before that,
he was really struggling.
He threw 5 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. And we've seen him, as you've reminded us, that was second year. He was 7th in MVP voting. So he won a playoff game, played well, and then fell off again. So I think we are still in that stage of prove it.
I agree with that.
And so another game would just be building more towards us really.
If he has a great game, would he crack your top 7 MVP ballot?
Well, I had him 5th on Brou's ballot last week.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.